Hello, I'm Scott Wrighton, and it's my pleasure again to bring you weekly updates from the city of Decatur. Today I'd like to talk about just two topics with you. The first is some confusion and maybe some clarity as well about how the city looks at COVID in the light of our increasing numbers and the fact that the city and the CDC and the state of Illinois and other agencies aren't necessarily of one mind on the matter of masks and vaccinations and other COVID-related topics, and at least try to sort through that just a little bit. And the second topic I'd like to talk with you about today has to do with the situation that landlords are in and programs we have to help them and their tenants, as well as sort of some unintended consequences of the eviction moratorium as it relates to some illegal dumping that we've seen on our public right-of-ways and on both private and public vacant property throughout the city that I think stems from that. So first of all, with regard to COVID and the latest there, I think it would be fair to say that our population, both nationally and here in Macon County, is deeply divided on the issue of COVID and what sort of protocols we should have in place. Even the Decatur City Council is divided on this subject. And I think that Governor Pritzker realizes that there is great division throughout the state of Illinois about this, which I think is one of the reasons why he is using more recommendations rather than mandates this time around. So for our part here in the city, we will continue to monitor the situation, and like every other organization, I think, we'll make decisions that are in the best interests of our organization, of our employees, and the facilities that we manage for the present, without necessarily going down the road of making new citywide mandates unless the numbers or the situation changes significantly. As we evaluate the advisability of some of these future actions, it might be useful right now to talk a little bit about some of the things that we can reasonably say that we do know. There's a great deal of disagreement on matters COVID, but I think there are some things that we can say that we do know. We know, for example, that hospital admissions and the ER load here in Macon County is up. Much of it, not all of it, much of it driven by COVID. We know that the number of COVID cases in Macon County, for now, is increasing. We know that the use of masks, especially by children, and the canceling of in-person learning can have other negative implications and outcomes that we don't fully understand. We know that most people who get COVID are unvaccinated, and that the best defense against getting the virus is to be vaccinated. And we also know that in those few breakthrough cases where someone who has been vaccinated still gets COVID, that their symptoms are generally less severe. And I believe that it should probably be conceded that the usefulness of masks among the fully vaccinated is not well substantiated. Mandating a vaccine that has not been approved by the FDA might be a little hasty and imprudent at this point. There are reasonable and unobtrusive safety protocols, however, that I think we can all observe regardless of our position about some of the other aspects of COVID, such as social distancing, such as frequent hand washing, and quarantining exposed persons and avoiding large groups. These are all things that are fairly easy to do and we can continue to observe. Local governments in Illinois still have considerable discretion to set down their own courses of action within certain parameters established by the Illinois Department of Public Health and make decisions that are appropriate for their respective communities. So in the days and weeks ahead, we will continue striving to act in ways that are best for all elements of the community and that at the same time somehow respect the individual liberties of our citizens while still seeking to protect public health. If you'd like to give us inputs on that, we would certainly like to have them, but I believe that the council, in part because it's divided, is trying to find that middle ground between still being observant of everything that we can reasonably do to protect public health, but also observant of legitimate arguments about the effectiveness of masks and other downsides from lockdowns and other more serious measures. Switching now a little bit to another topic related to, although it's sort of related to COVID too, because as a result of COVID, both the state and to a lesser extent the federal government have tried to extend eviction moratoriums so as not to displace people from their living environments who may have been economically affected by COVID. The city and local nonprofits here in Decatur have been preparing for the end of the eviction moratorium whenever that actually comes. While the state, I believe, clearly has the authority under its emergency powers to postpone evictions, the federal government likely does not. At least that seems to be the position of the Supreme Court. The confusion created by the federal government on this probably has not really helped here in Decatur, but the city of Decatur is working to address the financial implications of this. And the city council has done this by making additional, less restrictive funds available through a partner organization here in Decatur called Dove. And they'll, so that if people who have been affected by COVID and may be in danger of being evicted, whenever that happens, can go to Dove, and if they meet much simpler list of requirements now, then they might be able to get rent or mortgage, and certainly as well Ameren utility assistance for it. And one of the changes that we've made is to make this also available to the landlord, although they still have to do so in cooperation with the tenant. One of the, I think, unintended consequences of the whole issue with landlords not being able to collect rent may have been an increase in illegal dumping, which we have seen, and certainly the number of reports that we receive in the city about illegal dumping on city right-of-way as well as on both public and private vacant lots has increased. This may be a little bit of conjecture, but it could be that when a landlord is moving somebody out, maybe they walk away from a lot of the furniture, certainly the mattresses, and so they want to change these things out. The landlords already aren't receiving their rent, and so some of them may seek to avoid the costs associated with getting the unit ready for somebody else. And in some cases, sadly, we have furniture, television sets, mattresses, box springs just dropped along the edge of the right-of-way. In some cases, it's been neatly piled there in front of the house, and where they're working with the hauler or the recycler to get it picked up. But in some cases, it's clear, based on the way and the location that it's been dumped, that somebody just decided, I don't want to pay the cost for this, and I'll push it on onto the city. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that this kind of illegal dumping creates a cost for us, for Decatur taxpayers, because if we can't find who is responsible for the dumping, and it's not something that the hauler is supposed to pick up under the terms and conditions of the ordinance and contract that govern solid waste pickup here in Decatur, then the only solution is for the city's public works department to go and pick it up, and that costs all of us as Decatur citizens. So my request to you who are watching or listening today is that, to the extent that you can do so, if you see somebody doing what appears to be illegal dumping, and you can get a license plate or you can get some other identifying information, please feel free to pass that on to us, onto the city offices. You can do so anonymously. We can't have our eyes everywhere all the time, and even if we could, we wouldn't want to. This is one of those situations where we need your help, and for cities to function effectively and efficiently, to provide a good service to everybody, in many cases, as with law enforcement, as with illegal dumping, as with some other things, we can do a better job of it with your help. So if you see this kind of thing going on, we hope that you'll help us out by helping us identify them, and in that way we can do better enforcement, and by doing better enforcement, reduce the amount of those costs falling on the taxpayers. As with this and many other topics that it's my pleasure to talk to you about from week to week, thank you for your assistance. Thank you for your support and encouragement as we go through some turbulent times. I look forward to talking to you again next week.